Have a good day, students. My name is Mayuri Karya, and today we will see the part 2 of chapter 2, Standard 8 Social Science History NCERT book. The book name is Our Past 3 Part 1. The name of the chapter is From Trade to Territory, the company established powers. We have already completed part 1, so let's we see the quick recap of the part 1. Okay, whatever we have completed, that we see the means quick recap, and this somehow means I have tried to explain in a means extended manner, because in NCERT book means main things has been given. Okay, so some of the things that has been not written, I tried to means make you understand in a means chronicle manner. Eventually means Britishers came in India, so their main purpose was to do trading with means India, or to do means purchase the means precious thing of India, that was spices, fine cotton, fine silk. Okay, so their main purpose was that they want to do trading with India, okay, or Eastern countries. And so they have means asked for charter means to Queen Elizabeth, that they want to go to the eastern countries to do the trading. Okay, so in 1600 East India Company, a mercantile company, has been established with 70,000 pound rupees, and English traders got chartered to do trading with eastern countries for 15 years by Queen Elizabeth I. When they got the charter, they got the permission for only 15 years. Okay, on 31st December 600, they depart from England for trading. On the way, by mistake, they reach on the west area of South Africa, and they think that this one is India. Later on, the people came to know that this one is not India. So to that place means they have given the name West Indies, and again they sailed towards to the India. On 1608, they reached India on the back of Surat. In Surat, their ship name was Hector, and then a British official named Hawkins went to Jahangir's court to got the permission for trading. Okay, but eventually Jahangir didn't permitted them. So in 1630, again they have tried, and an ambassador of King James I, Sir Thomas Roe, went to Jahangir's court and got the permission to do the trading. So in 1613, they started their trading in India. In 1613, they first established their factory in Surat, but later on it has been shifted in 1687 to Mumbai. In 1707, Mughal Empire Farooq Shiar has issued Farman to Britishers, which has been facilitated them to do trading means duty free. Okay, so means Farooq Shiar has given that facility them, that they can do their trading in a easiest way. In 1651, they set up factory on the back of the river Hooghly. Means in 1613, first factory has been set up in Surat. Okay, in 1687 they have shifted that factory from Surat to Mumbai, and now another factory they have established on the back of river means Hooghly. Okay, so by 1696 they began building a fort around the British settlement. Means wherever their settlements are there, they have started to fortify that places. And also pursued means royal Farman from the Mughal Empire means Aurangzeb to do the trade duty free. So this one also means make them their work easier. They got the royal firman from the Aurangzeb to do the trade, means duty free. The company tried continuously to pressurize more concession and manipulate existing privileges, okay, to the means each and every Nawab. Means when they got the royal firman from the Aurangzeb, they continuously demanding for the means more and more concession and for more and more privileges to the each and every Nawab. This causing an enormous loss of revenue for the Nawab of Bengal, Ali Vardi Khan, who followed by the Murshid Ali Khan and was followed by the Sirajuddaulah. Means first Bengal Nawab was means Murshid Ali Khan. He was under the means Mughal Empire. Ali Vardi Khan then Ali Vardi Khan came on throne as a successor of Murshid Ali Khan. So Ali Vardi Khan means become the means independent Nawab because Aurangzeb, after the death of Aurangzeb. So they face means enormous loss in revenue of Bengal. In 1740, after the death of Aurangzeb, the Nawab of Bengal, Ali Vardi Khan, became independent ruler of Bengal. In 1756, Ali Vardi Khan has been died and Sirajuddaulah came on throne. Okay. So when Sirajuddaulah came on throne of the Bengal, he noticed that company was depriving the Bengal government of huge amount of revenue and undermining the authority of the Nawab. Means they are continuously depriving the Bengal. So the Sirajuddaulah didn't like that. An infuriated Sirajuddaulah asked company to stop fortification and pay revenues regularly. But after the negotiation failed, the Nawab marched with the 30,000 soldiers to the English factory at Kasinabad, and he captured the company's officials, locked the warehouses, dismantled the Englishmen, and blocked English ships. Then he marched to the Calcutta to establish control over the company's fort there. Okay. On 20th June 1756, an incident happened. That means Sirajuddaulah has blocked everything. Now, at that time, he done one thing also. This incident is being known as a black hole tragedy in the history. Eventually, what done? Sirajuddaulah captured 146 English officials in a small dark room, and the next day only 23 people could survive because of suffocation. Rest of died. So this incident is being called the black hole tragedy in the history. On hearing the news of this, company official in Madras sent force under the command of the Robert Clive to reinforce the naval fleets. Means Sirajuddaulah done this, so company has been somehow furious. So they sent commanders in the under the leadership of the Robert Clive. Finally, in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Sirajuddaulah at Plassey. Now decided that battle will be done. So they have been met on the ground of the Plassey. Now what then before this Robert Clive has bribed Sirajuddaullah's closer person like Mir Jafar. They were commanders of the Sirajuddaulah, and they Robert Clive bribed the commanders of Sirajuddaulah like Mir Jafar, Rai Durlab, Jagat Seth, Ami Chand, etc., and they betrayed to the Sirajuddaulah. On 23rd June 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Sirajuddaulah at Plassey. Now done decided that battle will be fought. Okay, so they met on the battle of Plassey. one of the main reason for the defeat of the Nawab was Sirajuddaulah has been defeated in the Plassey battle. The main reason was the commander of is one of the commander Mir Jafar who betrayed him and took him in confidence that he will fought battle Mir Jafar will fought battle on the behalf of Sirajuddaulah and sent Sirajuddaulah to the place back and we can say na in place Sirajuddaulah has been killed. That's why in history it is being called that a battle of Plassey is a battle that has been never fought. Why? Because in ground battle of Plassey has been never fought. Eventually Sirajuddaulah has been killed in his own place by his own commanders. Okay, so the battle has been never fought. Now, after the defeat of the Plassey, Sirajuddaulah was assigned and Mir Jafar made the Nawab. Soon the company discovered that even the puppet Nawab were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. Mir Jafar was a puppet Nawab of British officials. Still the people are thinking that he is not that much helpful as they want. When the Mir Jafar protested, the company deposed him and installed his own daughter's husband Mir Qasim on his place. Okay, so they have assigned Mir Qasim as Bengal's Nawab on the behalf of Mir Jafar. When Mir Jafar complained, he driven out from the Bengal. And again Mir Jafar has been reinstalled. This led to company and Mir Qasim to the Battle of Buxar in 1764. Now Mir Qasim has felt insulted, so he decided to do the battle with the company. Okay, so this led the Mir Qasim and company to the Battle of Buxar. To Mir Qasim in help Mughal Empire Mir Qasim took help of Mughal Emperor Shah Alam I and the Nawab of Awadh Sujauddaulah. Okay, and with their armies he attacked on the company. And but the Mir Qasim, Shah Alam I and Nawab Sujauddaulah defeated by the company official Hector Munro. All three together in the Battle of Buxar they have been defeated by the company official. Okay, the officer name is Hector Munro. Because of that, company and Mughal emperor done the treaty of Allahabad in 1765. 1765 the Treaty of Allahabad. In that what Mughal emperor has done, they appointed company as a diwan for Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Diwan they are now Mughal emperor given them a right to collect the revenue from Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Diwani allowed the company to use the vast revenue of this places. Now they are having the more sources to get the revenue. So here because of these two main battles, Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar, they got the right to collect the diwani or revenue of these places. Now let's we see the further. Here has given the map route. You can see we have discussed na in the when Britishers left for the place, here from the people left, and eventually they have to be reach to the India, but on the way they people reach here written Cape of Good Hope. Okay, so here the people have been reached, and they thought that this one is India, but later on the people came to know about that this one is not India. So again the people are traveling and they are reaching to India on the back of Surat right now in Gujarat. Okay, so back of Surat right now in Gujarat here. Okay, so this much means biggest way the people have been completed. The company officials become Nawab. What did it means to be Nawab? It meant to, of course, that the company acquired more power and authorities, but also meant sometimes as each company servant began to have vision to living a Nawab. Means when British officials came in India, they are having a means vision to live like a Nawab, means that lavish and large life. After the Battle of Plassey, the actual Nawab of the Bengal was forced to give land and vast sum of money as personal gift to company officials. Robert Clive himself amassed a fortune in India. He had come to Madras, now Chennai, from England in 1743 at the age of 18. When in 1767 he left India, the Indian fortune was worth 401,102 pounds. Interestingly, when he was appointed governor of Bengal in 1764, he was asked to remove corruption in company administration, but he was himself cross-examined in 1772 by the British Parliament, which was suspicious of his vast wealth. Although he was acquitted, the committed suicide in 1774. Okay, so means Robert Clive has done corruption and he knew very well that I would be caught, so he committed suicide. However, not all company officials succeeded in the making money like Clive. Many died an early death in India due to disease and wars, and it would not be right to regard all of them as corrupt and dishonest. Many of them came from humble backgrounds and their uppermost desire was to earn enough in India. Okay, so everyone was not like that. Many were honest also, returned to Britain and led to comfortable life. But each and everyone his main desire is when they return from India, there should be a lavish and comfortable life. Those who manage to return with wealth led flashy lives and Anglicized version of the Indian word Nawab. They were often seen as upstart and social climbers in British society and were ridiculed to made fun of play of cartoon. Means they were living that much lavish life that means sometimes they are being as a means stuff of fun also as a cartoon. Now because of this means company has to extend their rules. If we analyze the process of annexation of Indian states by the East India Company from 1757 to 1857, certain key aspects emerged. The company rarely launched a direct military attack on the unknown territories. Instead, it used a variety of political, economic, and diplomatic methods to extend its influence before annexing an Indian Kingdom. After the Battle of Buxar 1764, the company appointed residents in Indian states. They were political or commercial agents and their jobs was to serve and further the interest of the company. Though the residents, the company officials began interfering in the internal affairs of Indian states. They tried to decide who was to be successor of the throne and who was to be appointed to administrative post. Okay, means now everyone is taking interest in this, so means they want to be a successor of this post. Okay, sometimes the company forced the state to into a subsidiary alliance. So means in Indian state means these kind of means system that after the king his own son is being means as a king. Okay, so this they want to be stopped, so they have applied a means policy subsidiary alliance. According to the term of this alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed force. Means each and every ruler cannot means keep their independent their own army. Okay, they were to be protected by the company, means company armies will protect them. But had to pay for subsidiary forces. Means whatever the British forces are there, they have to be pay for that. That the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. Okay, means they are telling that we have to maintain army, so you have to pay us to maintain this army or protection. If the Indian rulers fail to make the payment, then part of their territory was taken away as a penalty. Means money cannot be given by them, so they are taking some of the part of their territory. For example, when Richard Wellesley was Governor General in 1798 to 1805, the Nawab of Awadh was forced to give over half of his territory to the company in 81, as he failed to pay for the subsidiary forces. Hyderabad was also forced to cede territories on their grounds. Okay, so these are the two examples. Now, sources 4. What power did the resident have? Means residential came in India, means British officials started to live in India, so what powers they are having? This is what James Mill, the famous economist and political philosopher from Scotland, wrote about the residents appointed by the company. We place a resident who really is king of the country, means whatever the injunctions of non-interference he may act under, as long as the picture act in the perfect substantive and does what is agreeable to the resident. It is to be British government thing go on quiet. They are managed without resident appearing much in the administration of affairs. But when anything of the different nature happens, the government, the prince take a course with which the British government think wrong, then come to cleansing and disturbance. Okay, means British officials started to administrate here. Most probably England government is following the non-interference policy, but when the people are thinking that something is going wrong, then the people are taking a supervision and telling their suggestions also. Now next, Tipu Sultan, the tiger of Mysore. The company restored to direct military confrontation when it shows a threat to its political or economic interest. This can be illustrated with the case of the southern Indian state of Mysore. Mysore had grown in strength under the leadership of power rulers like Hyder Ali, ruled from 1761 to 1782, and his famous son Tipu Sultan, ruled from 1782 to 1799. Mysore controlled the profitable trade of the Malabar coast, where the company purchased paper and cardamom. In 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, paper and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom and disallowed local merchants from trading with the company. He also established a close relationship with the French in India and modernized his army with their help. Okay, so here you can see the picture when in second war, when Tipu Sultan has been defeated, company officials take away his two sons as a hostages in 1972. Okay, so the British were furious. In picture that has been explained, the British were furious. They show Hyder and Tipu as ambitious, arrogant and dangerous rulers who had to be controlled and crunched. 4 wars were fought with Mysore: 1767 to 69. Second was 1780 to 84. This 1782 Hyder Ali has been died, so his son Tipu Sultan has been continued from 1790 to 92 and 1799. So first two war has been started by the Hyder Ali. In second war in between he has been died. So Tipu Sultan has been continued and rest of the two war has been fought by the Tipu Sultan. Only in the last the battle of Seringapatam did the company ultimately win a victory. Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital Seringapatam. Mysore was placed under the former ruling dynasty of the Wadiyars, and the subsidiary alliance was imposed in on that state. Means they don't want to be a independent Nawab, so they merged that Mysore dynasty under the Wadiyar dynasty. Okay, here is one legend, the legend of Tipu Sultan. Kings are often surrounded by legends and their powers glorified through the folklore. Here is a legend about Tipu Sultan, who became the ruler of Mysore in 1782. It is said that once he went hunting in the forest with a French friend. There he faced to face with a tiger. His gun did not work and his dagger fell to the ground. He battled with the tiger unarmed until he managed to reach down and pick up the dagger. Okay, finally he was able to kill the tiger in the battle. After this, he came to be known as a tiger of Mysore. He had the image of tiger on his flag also. It is given one also. Another image is Tipu's toy tiger. This is the picture of a big mechanical toy that Tipu possessed. You can see a tiger manipulating European soldiers. When its handle was turned, the toy tiger roared and the soldiers shrieked. Okay, means when the handle is being turned, so the soldiers are shrieked and automatically go in his mouth and the tiger is roared. Okay, so the tiger is now kept this toy tiger is now kept in the Victoria, the Albert Museum in London. The British took it away when Tipu Sultan died and defending his capital Seringapatam on 4th May 1799. Next one, after defeating Tipu Sultan, they have focused on the Marathas. War with the Marathas eventually when Mysore war was going on simultaneously in eastern part of the India they are fighting with the Marathas also. From the late 18th century, the company also sought to calm and eventually destroy Maratha power with their defeat in the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761. The Marathas' dream of ruling from Delhi was shattered. They were divided into many states under different chiefs, Sardars belonging to dynasties such as Sindhias, Holkars, Gayakwad and Bhosle. These chiefs were held together in a confederacy under the Peshwa principal minister, who became its effective military and administrative head based on Pune. Madhaji Scindia and Nana Fadnavis were two famous Maratha soldiers and statesmen of the late 18th century. The Maratha were subdued in the series of war. In the first war, that ended in 1782 with the Treaty of Salbai. Some kind of we can say that one kind of samjhauta, something like that. There was no clear war. The Second Anglo-Maratha War in 1803 to 1805 was fought on different fronts, resulting the British gaining the Orissa and the territory north of Yamuna River, including Agra and Delhi. Finally, the Third Anglo-Maratha War of the 1870 to 19 crunched Maratha power. The Peshwa was removed and sent away the Bithur near Kanpur with a pension. The company now had complete control over territory south of the Vindhyas. Okay. Now, the claim of paramountcy. Another policy is there, the claim of paramountcy. It is clear from the above that, from the early 19th century, the company pursued an aggressive policy of terrestrial expansion. Under the Lord Hastings, Governor General from 1830 to 1823, a new policy of paramountcy was initiated. Now the company claimed its authority was paramount or supreme. Hence, its power was greater than that the Indian states. In order to protect its interest, it was justified in annexing or threatening to annex any Indian kingdom. This view continued to guide later British policies as well. This process however did not go unchallenged. For example, when the British tried to annex a small state of Kittur in Karnataka today, Rani Channamma took to arms and led an anti-British resistance movement. She was arrested in 1824 and died in prison in 1829. But Rayana, a poor chowkidar of Sangoli in Kittur, carried on the resistance with the popular support. He destroyed many British camps and records. He was caught and hanged by the British in 1830. You will read more about several cases of resistance later in the book. Means paramountcy means Britishers are superior and we have to follow. If they are coming to annex their means any king's kingdom, the king has to be surrendered to the king, otherwise means Britishers will fought a battle with them. That is called the paramountcy, policy of paramountcy. In the late 1830s, the East India Company became worried about Russia. It imagined that Russia might expand across Asia and enter India from the northwest, driven by the fear. The British now wanted to secure their control over the northwest. They fought a prolonged war with Afghanistan between 1838 and 1842 and established indirect company rule there. Sindh was taken over in 1843. Next in line was the Punjab. Okay, Sindh was a place in right now means Pakistan, so that was taken in 1843. And next line was Punjab. Right now also half Punjab is in India and half Punjab is in Pakistan. But the presence of Maharaja Ranjit Singh held back the company. After the death of 1899, two prolonged wars were fought with the Sikh kingdom. Ultimately, in 1849, Punjab was annexed. Till the means Maharaja Ranjit Singh was there, they cannot annex the Punjab. But after his death, they can annex the Punjab. Okay. Now, next policy is doctrine of lapse. Okay, means the final wave of annexation occurred under the Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856. He devised a policy that came to be known as the Doctrine of Lapse. The doctrine declared that if any Indian ruler died without a male heir, his kingdom would be lapse. That is become the part of the company territory. One king after another was annexed simply by the applying this doctrine lapse. But no one can adopt any son if they are not having inherited son. Okay, automatically means their kingdom will be included in the means British kingdom. So they have means annexed in this way Satara in 1848, Sambalpur in 1850, Udaipur in 1852, Nagpur in 1853 and Jhansi in 1854. Okay, finally in 1856 the company also took over Awadh. This time the British had an added argument. They said that they were obliged by the duty to take over Awadh in order to free the people from the misgovernment of the Nawab. Enraged by the humiliating way which Nawab was disposed and people of Awadh joined a great revolt that broke out in 1857. Means after in a doctrine labs, what the people were telling, if any means king is not having inherited son, then means that kingdom will automatically means being included in the British territory. But in Awadh means they are having inherited, still means they have give the reason that Awadh means Nawab of Awadh is means disobeying the British officials, they are not following the rules, and misgoverning means there is a misgoverning in the means whole kingdom, so the people are means conquered the Awadh in British territory. Okay, so this is somehow injustice, so means people have been protest against this. Here is the given the picture that Maharaja Ranjit Singh is holding the court. Okay, and the Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a king of Punjab. Here is given the some map that before the means this was somehow our India. Okay, in figure 11, initially our India was like that, means yeah, under the British, means yellow color you can see under the British rule. Time by time means the you can see that increasing areas of the British rule. Okay, yellow color is going to be show the means provisions that are under the British rule. Now time by time how means the people have been conquered the means provisions or places, so you can see here. So figure 11, A, B and C map expansion of British terrestrial power in India. Look at this map along with the present day political map of India. In each of these maps try and identify a different part of India that were not under the British rule. Okay, so somehow here Hyderabad, that red place you can say Gujarat, Rajasthan, here means Nepal part that are not means under the British rule. Okay, now next. When the people have started to gain the means new territory, so setting up a new administration. Warren Hastings, Governor General from 1773 to 1785, was one of the many important figures who played a significant role in the expansion of company power. By his time, the company had acquired power not only in Bengal but also in Bombay and Madras. British territory were broadly divided into administrative units called presidencies. There were three presidencies: Bengal, Madras, and Bombay. Each was ruled by a governor. The supreme head of administration was the Governor General. Warren Hastings, the first Governor General, introduced several administrative reforms, nobody in the sphere of justice. In 1772, a new system of justice was established. Each district was have two courts, a criminal court, that Faujidari Adalat, and a civil court, that is Diwani Adalat. Maulavis and Hindu Pandits interpreted Indian laws for a European district collector who presided over civil courts. The criminal courts were still under a Qazi and Mufti, but under the supervision of the collector. Okay, means these means Warren Hastings has established the justice system. You can see here the picture of a trial court. Okay, trial of Warren Hastings painted by R.G. Porlade in 1789. So you can see the picture of a court here. A major problem was the Brahmin Pandits gave different interpretation of local laws based on the different school of the Dharma Shastra to bring about the uniformity. In 1775, 11 Pandits were asked to compile a digest of Hindu laws. N.B. Health translated this digest into English. By 1778, a code of Muslim law was also compiled for the benefit of European justice. Under the Regulating Act of 1773, a new Supreme Court was established by the Court of Appeal. The Sardar Nizamat Adalat was also set up at Calcutta. Okay, so means Warren Hastings has set up some courts for maintaining the law and order. So means Indian laws means in India the laws are means different than the British. So to establish a new set of form, what he has done, he has arranged a panel of means Pandit and the Qazi to means we can study the law of Hindu and Muslim, and on the basis of their reports they have means created the law. Okay, and it translated into the English, and after that means he has set up the some means laws. Okay, the principal figure in an Indian district was the collector. As the title suggests, his main job was to collect revenue and taxes and maintain law and order in his district with the help of judges, police officers and Darogas. His office, the collectorate, became the new center of power and patronage that steadily replaced previous holders of authority. Okay, now collector was the supreme person in his district or in his place. The company army. Colonial rule in India brought in some new ideas of administration and reform, but its power rested on its military strength. The Mughal army was mainly composed of cavalry, sawars, trained soldiers on horsebacks, and infantry, that is political foot soldiers. They were given training in archery, Tirandazi, and the use of sword. The cavalry dominated the army, and the Mughal state did not feel the need to have a large professionally trained infantry. The ruler idea had a large number of armed peasants, and the local zamindars often supplied the Mughal with paidal soldiers. Means by foot the people means the soldiers are means walking. A change occurred in the 18th century when the Mughal successor state like Awadh and Banaras started recruiting peasants into their armies and training them as a professional soldiers. The East India Company adopted the same method when it began recruited for its own army, which came to be known as the Sepoy army, from the Indian word Sipahi, meaning soldiers. Okay, so whatever the means soldiers, walking means the walking army, we can say the by foot army, that is called the Sepoy army or soldiers. The warfare technology changed from the 1820s. The cavalry recruitment of the company army declined. This has become the British Empire was fighting in the Burma, Afghan and Egypt, where soldiers were armed with the musket and matchlocks. The soldiers of the means company's army had to be keep pace with changing military requirements. Its infantry regiment now become more important. Okay, so now the soldiers has been allotted musket. Musket means big guns, and matchlocks means like a top. Okay, so in the early 19th century, the British began to develop a uniform military culture. Soldiers were increasingly subjected to European style training, drill, and discipline that regulate their life far more than the before. Okay, so now means new rules and regulations and disciplines come in the army. Often this created problems since caste and community feeling were ignored in the building of a force of the professional soldiers. Could individuals so easily give up their caste and religious feelings? Okay, so now everyone has to give up their caste and religious feeling and has to be means same in the army as a member. Okay, community member. What did the sepoy feel? How did they react to the changes in their lives and their identities? That is their sense of who they were. The revolt of 1857 gives us a glimpse into the world of the sepoy. You will read about this in revolt in chapter 5. Okay, So means they, everyone is having their own feelings, but that has been ignored, and the people were telling that everyone is same, but still they are having means some discrimination in that also. So these things we will see in the next chapter number 5th. Conclusion: this the East India Company was transformed from the trading company to terrestrial colonial power. The arrival of new steam technology in the early 19th century also aided this process. Till then, it would take anywhere between 6 to 18th month to travel to the India by sea. Steamships reduced to journey time to the 3 weeks, and inviting more Britishers and their families to come to the far off country like India. Okay, so many inventions also help them to means increase their means powers. In 1857, the company came to exercise direct rules over about 63% of the territory and 78% of the population of the Indian subcontinent. Combined with its indirect influence on the remaining territory and population of the country, the East India Company had virtually the whole of India under its control. Means most of the India is under its control. Means 63% of the territory and 78% of the population was under the British control. Okay, and by the 1857. Okay, so means we have seen the journey from where Britishers came in India as a traders or merchants, and they established their power, and by the 1857 means the people have been means conquered most of the places, 68% of territory and 78% of population. Okay, I hope you like this lecture. Thank you so much.